Once again, thank everybody for coming in today. This is the third session of 6 of the HR in a Box series. And once again, we're delighted to have the team here from Being Human Services. We've got Pamela, we've got Karen, and we've got Peggy, who are all here today to present, primarily around the ideas of I'm going to have to take a look up on the screen here again, performance management, because my thing here just says PM, and I'm thinking that's not what I want it to say, right? So, and succession planning, so we're going to be going over that. My name's Chris Thomas. I'm on the board of directors with the Talent Pool here in Alberta, and we want to thank everybody again for coming in today. We also want to thank the sponsors of the event, Alberta Labour, the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce, Being Human Services Incorporated, and the Talent Pool. And obviously want to thank all of you for coming down and taking part. First session that we want to start off with today is the idea of, and I'm going to look up again, performance management as an integrated process. And that's what we're going to start off with. And Pamela is going to walk us through with this through the next 45 minutes or an hour or so. So I'm going to turn it over now.
Thanks, Chris. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you again. Always fun to present to fellow human resources professionals and others who also are interested in the human resource business. So I want to just start by asking how many people here, their primary role is human resource management. Hands up if that's your job. Okay. How many here have some other role? A human resource? Yeah. Okay. So what we're talking about is applicable. How many people here are parents? Grandparents? Okay. If you are a parent, you are already an expert at performance management, right? Right? Or not. So today we really want to talk about performance management as an integrated process. That is, it's not just about do your homework, right? Do the job. It's really about why are we here? What did we come to work for today? So I'm going to just get my handout so I don't have to keep looking backwards to the screen. And so that's me, Being Human Services. Our company is involved in training, placement, helping people connect with employers. We support both individuals who are looking for jobs and employers who are looking for people. I'm really happy to be here with my colleagues Peggy Giesen and Karen Zeman, who together we've done this thing for a long time. And just a little history, those of you who might remember Community Employment Services way back when, that's where we joined forces. But Karen and I, even long before that, when we were helping to settle newcomers back in the day when they were coming from Vietnam. And so the whole idea of bringing people together into the workforce is something that we all hold very dear to our hearts. So today, the purpose is to discuss how performance management integrates with other elements of the organization. That is the values, the mission, the vision, the strategic plan, and the business plan. So I'm going to assume, we're going to assume that everybody has these things, right? And does everybody know them? Right. Really? So we're supposed to, right? So we want to talk about that a little bit more. And we want to review the key elements of really an effective performance management strategy overall. And then following that piece, Karen is going to walk you through how to do it really on the level with the individual employee. And then Peggy's going to talk about succession planning, what comes next. So I would like you to introduce yourself. We have such a small group that rather than do this in individual tables, we're only 10 of us here today, I think, which is a great group to work with. I'm going to ask you to just tell us who you are, what's your organization and your role, and what's your biggest challenge in performance management. Now, if you don't manage other people, then you are being managed. So no matter what, if you're a working person, you probably have some kind of a challenge in terms of performance management. Okay, so I'm going to just start over here, just because I was looking at you making you nervous, but I'm actually going to start over here. Go ahead. We're going to bring you the microphone here.
Okay, I'm Doug Henderson, Chief Administrative Officer with Cypress County, and my biggest challenge, I think, is time management of staff and the various times that staff want to work or do work.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Pam Darlie and I'm with Core Association, and I'm a team leader in Children's Services and Succession Training, my manager of Human Resources. I think my biggest challenge, because in my field I get a lot of college students, so how can I effectively be a good supervisor and a leader for the girls that I get before they go on their way?
I'm Janine Badger, and I'm also from Cypress County, and I've just been there over a year, so I think the biggest challenge is I'm the keeper of the information. I'm in Human Resources, and just trying to keep people up to date with what they've included in their performance management and ensuring that we follow up, and if we don't, what are some of the other things we can be doing.
Thank you.
I'm Alison Lee Belt from Odistar CompuSystems. I'm the software development manager, so I have the IT development team and the QA team working for me. And the biggest challenge when we come to do performance management in March of each year is the amount of people I have to review and push through in a 2-week period without losing the fact that you have to give them quality time.
Right, okay, well, you've come to the right place.
My name is Sharifa from Abata Works, so I'm being managed, so not really.
Okay, I'm Jane from Sammy's Immigration. As far as the performance management, I'm not really sure what it even means. Can you describe it for me?
Oh, you will learn. We will tell you all about it.
Okay.
Okay, good, I'm glad you're here.
I'm Lauren from Jade Homes, and I think for me, similar to Janine, it's following up with people, making a schedule that works for our team, and making sure that the goals we set for people are accurate, and encouraging managers to follow up and actually see them through. Is difficult, I think, when everyone's busy
Right.
and has other things, but it's also really important.
Good. I just want you to listen to the goals we set for people. And at the end of the day, I want you to think about that, and I think that will have changed for you. Good, thank you.
My name is Tennille Motz, and I'm from Hebert Cabinets under the Hebert Group. And it's a small company, so I think a lot of our jobs overlap, and I think it's kind of staying on task and not doing other people's work, and yeah, just kind of seeing how that unfolds. But.
Okay, great, thank you.
I'm Callie Carlson. I'm from the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter, and I do the HR administration there. Lots of our managers are social workers, so I think part of our performance management is they are too soft.
Peggy, that's exactly what you were saying today. Okay.
Yeah. So the hard conversations aren't had.
Right, they want to help instead of,
Yeah.
I hear you. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Michelle Amos. I'm the HR Director at School District 76, and my biggest challenge would probably be the calibration of employees, so one person's awesome isn't somebody else's mediocre.
Yes, absolutely. That's great. Well, I'm really thrilled to hear what the challenges are, because if they weren't these, we would be probably having to rewrite our presentations, but we don't. This is what we're here to talk about, so that's great. So things to think about today. The key concepts. Oh, and this is in tiny print here, so I'm going to read it here. So the organization's mission, vision. So the mission is why are we here? What your mission, should you choose to accept it, is. Okay, the vision is, what will it look like? What does it look like? How will we know? It's kind of like the goals, but very, very broad. And the strategic plan is, how are we going to make it work in all of the areas? The business plan, which is even a more refined version of the strategic plan, and how does that relate to the individuals who work for the organization? And sometimes the management or the owner or whoever it is, the people in charge, know all of this, but if you went to ask the person who's actually doing the work, they might not be able to tell you. What is the organization's mission, vision, strategic plan, business plan? How does that person fit into that? So the goals that are set, that are set, if they're set top down by the management team who has this mission, that cooked this up and says, here you go, this is what your job is, that's one way to do it. But if the person at the bottom, and I'm going to say at the bottom, I don't mean the bottom, but maybe at the front, the person who really is connecting with the work that needs to be done, if they don't have a good understanding of all of these pieces, it's very easy to lose track. So you're saying, so in our organization, I'll use us as an example, we're a small team of 10 people. We say, why are we here? Our job is to help people be better, do better. Now it's really broad. Well, what is being and doing, and what is better, right? Well, I know what it means. Do you know what it means?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Do our staff know what it means?
Probably not.
We hope so. So then we have to take it a little bit more in depth. Okay, well the idea is, so as business owners, which is very strange for us, having come from the not-for-profit world, one of our objectives is to not lose money. In fact, we might want to make some. Okay, so that's a good thing. Not-for-profits still need to have a good profit margins if they want to continue, if we all want to have jobs. But that's not our main reason for being. Because if we wanted to just make money, we probably wouldn't be in the business of human beings, because the human being business it's got a lot of unpredictable variables. But we also like the work of helping people or getting people to help themselves to achieve their employment goals and to help employers get the right people in those jobs. So it's a win-win. So we know that everybody who works for us, it wouldn't take much of a conversation with them that would emerge, probably universally in this small team. Now, very easy in a team of 10 people. When we worked in a team of 200 people who had different roles and functions and responsibilities and hours of work, was much more difficult, right? So, so that's the first thing, is to understand it is an integrated process and it does need to connect with all of those pieces, those planning pieces. The second one is that goal setting and planning for organizations and individuals, so goal setting and planning, they are key, they are the tools you use. So as I'm driving here this morning, I'm thinking, where am I going? I'm not going to Winners, you know? I'm not going to Good Sam's. I've got to come here to do this morning. Why? You know, you ask yourself, well, why am I going there? Well, like I said last time, for those of you who were here, anything I do in my day, I said it's because it's meaningful, or it's fun, or it makes me a lot of money. And it better be one of the three. So today, I'm hoping it's going to be meaningful and fun, because this isn't about a money thing. But the point is, if I don't know why I'm coming here, if I don't understand the goal that I have for today, it's going to be very hard at the end of the day to say, did I succeed? Somebody will say, how did you do? Say, I don't know, not sure. That's why we like evaluations, right? The end of a session, we're going to do an evaluation, and we're going to look at that and say, oh, okay, next time you need to do this or this or this or this. So that's the idea, is making sure that goal setting is an integral part of the process, not waiting until it's all over and then saying, okay, now we're going to evaluate what you did. Well, why were you here? Well, I came for a party. What did you come for? Right? If you came for a party, okay, we've got snacks and we've got people, but if you came for some other reason, if you don't know why you're there, it's going to be hard to know how you did. So the next one is that good performance management results in good employee engagement that we talked about last time. How many people here like praise? I love it. I love applause. I love praise. I love atta girl. When I used to go in for my performance appraisals annually, I had a supervisor who would not ever, we had a system that was 0 to 5, right? 5 was amazing, outstanding, and 0 was you suck, right? And so I would go in and I would have all my list of things that I would have done and accomplished and the goals that I had met, and I would say, I achieved everything I wanted to. Well, here I had a little problem with that. And then I'd say, okay, here it is, and I'm expecting to get awesome. But I would get the number 4, which is 80%. Now, I was a student. I was not a person who was happy with 80%. I wanted like 97%. So if you give me 80% of my performance appraisal and I think it's 100%, what am I going to feel?
Dejected.
Dejected, right. But you know what, and I would have totally, so I'd say, okay, I get it. I messed up, I missed something, I didn't understand it. You tell me what I need to do differently so I can get that 5 out of 5. You know what the answer was? Nothing. You did fine. but I don't give 5s. There is no 5. Nobody's perfect. Oh, yes, they are. So the fact is that the scale was really out of 4. But they told me that there was no way I could, it was out of 5, so how could I ever win? What do you think that did to my motivation? Demotivated me. Right. So I did not get my motivation from my annual performance appraisal. I got it from my work. I got it from knowing the goals that I set for myself and my team and whether I achieved them or not. So I found my own way to be motivated. But then I'm what you call an achievement motivated person. That's my character. But not everybody is. And I'm only achievement motivated at certain things, by the way. So we all have our things we're achievement motivated at. So the idea is that if you don't do good performance management, you bring your person in for your annual performance appraisal thinking, okay, I'm going to do this. In fact, you may have done more harm than good. You may have instilled in that person a sense that there's nothing they can do to make their work any better, so they might as well either give up, stop trying, or go somewhere else where they can do better. Because for those most people are achievement motivated, by the way. When I say I am, so are most people. Most people like to achieve. And if they don't, it's usually because something else is going wrong. And yes, they might need some social workers to help them there. That's another presentation. Okay, so here we go. Of course, this never happens. I love Dilbert. Anybody else a Dilbert fan? I just love Dilbert. Got a text message from our boss. Keep up work. What does that mean? You just got your annual performance review, right? And for some people, going in for their annual performance review is just an exercise. Everybody hates it. It's like I had to go get my dental checkup last week. And you know, they're talking to me about the margins of my gums in numbers, and I just hate that. Like, well, what am I supposed to do about that? You know, it's not my fault. But so I went away, and I didn't even get a candy or a ring or anything at the end of the you know, it was really an awful experience. Your performance appraisal shouldn't feel like getting your teeth checked, or worse, your teeth cleaned, or worse, a root canal, right? They should be a really great opportunity to talk to your employees about how are you connecting to the organization? What are you doing? Why are you here? How are you helping the organization move forward? And what is the organization doing? And by the way, here's the update on the organization's strategic plan, which you have actually been involved in creating because we've talked to you about this. So you even understand what we're talking about. So performance management is a process, and this is in your handout, by which managers and employees work together to plan, monitor, and review an employee's work objectives and overall contribution to the organization. So as an integrated process, performance management means that everybody understands the organization, mission, vision, purpose, all of those things. So it's more than just an annual performance review. Some people think, okay, the performance management, I have 200 people, I have to figure out how to get them in and out in a certain amount of time and check all the boxes and put it into the system so they know how they're doing. How many people, that's it? That's mostly what it is. Good, I'm glad because we know it's a lot more than that, and for most people it is a lot more than that. But this one often becomes what we keep track of the most. So sometimes this speaks the loudest. So it's a continuous process of setting objectives, assessing progress, and providing ongoing coaching and feedback to ensure that employees are meeting their objectives and career goals. And Karen is going to talk about this in detail. And this comes from the HR Council Toolkit, which is an online resource for not-for-profits. But I find that the not-for-profit and the for-profit world of HR are not that different in my view, except for the accreditation requirement. So, again, do your employees know about these things? And if they don't, how can we engage them? And not only informing them, but actually making them a part of the process. Has anybody ever told you you had to do something and it was going to be your goal? Anybody ever had that experience? Yeah. And did you like it? And did it work? No, not at all. You think you can tell me what to do? I might smile and nod. I'm not doing it. And I see people all the time in counseling, and they come in and they're really upset with their employer, and they'll say, they don't get it, they don't understand, and it's not fair. Anybody ever think that or hear that? It's not fair? So what we know about human beings is when they think something's not fair, it causes disgust and revulsion. and they will push away as hard as they can. So as an organization, you want people who are absolutely, what do they call it, drinking the Kool-Aid, I think. You know, they say they really buy in. They really feel like they're on a mission and doing something important. And every day they come to work, they know that their work is meaningful and their life is meaningful, and that's why they're there. Not for the paycheck and not for the perks, although those things are important as well. And we talked about that a little bit last time. So why did we all come to work today? Can everybody in your organization answer that, not only for their little job that they have to do, I shouldn't say little job, but I mean the piece of the the little piece of the pie that they have, and how that relates. Do you think all your people would be able to do that? Maybe? Okay. What do you think? Why did you come to work today? When you go back to your office, can you say why you came to work? What's that?
I have a meeting.
You have a meeting, okay. Okay.
I think most days I can answer that.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think most days, because you definitely, I'm not there for the paycheck. It's
Right.
a nonprofit
Right,
organization.
right,
But I do need to pay my bills,
Right.
food on the table
Right.
and stuff. But
yeah,
helping my staff, helping the kids, the
Yeah.
individuals I work with,
yeah.
that just, it gives me a sense of belonging. It gives me that sense. So for most days, I can answer that. There are some days,
Yeah,
most of my staff will be able to answer that.
these questions.
That, no, the why they came to work.
Why they came to work today.
Because usually they work with 1 or 2 kids.
Right,
So
okay,
they know what
Okay.
their focus is.
right. So the question is, can they then move that work from that child to, can they relate to the bigger vision, mission of the organization? Does that all connect?
It's not always.
Not always, okay. Okay, and sometimes there is a disconnect between what the organization wants and what the job is. And when that happens, you have people really, really frustrated. I'll give you an example of that. Someone I know is a owner of a big business, and he hired a retail manager for his operation, and had key performance, and we'll talk a little more about key performance indicators. The idea of this retail business was to make money, right? That was their bottom line. We're going to sell this many units to make this much profit, and this is the setup, and it's worked so far, and it always works, and we've always done better and better and better. This is a Calgary business. And so the expectation is, these are your goals based on what we've done in the past. So imagine what happened. This person comes in, does his very best, 2009. Nothing had changed in the plan, in the key performance indicators. How do you think that person did? How do you think his performance would have been viewed based on that standard? 2009, remember we had big recession, people lost their jobs. We sort of had a replay of that this year. This person failed. And this owner said, he didn't perform. He did perform. What didn't perform? What's that? Yeah, what didn't perform is that there was no adjustment of the goals to take in the conditions, right? I can say, I'm going to walk 5K a day. Anybody do that, walk 5K a day? Good, I can say I'm going to do it. But if it's minus 30, I might not do it that day. Now, if it's minus 30 for 30 days, and that's my measure of success, what should I do? Should I just keep failing? Reevaluate. And you need to reevaluate sometimes on a dime. You might just say, oh my goodness, we have these goals. We have these objectives. This is how our organization is going to succeed. But suddenly we have a whole different economic climate. Mayor Ted Clugston said, in Medicine Hat, said, if I don't build that building on the corner downtown by the next election, I will not run. Right? He also said that in the paper. Now, so his performance in terms of that was, right? Now he's saying, well, okay, but, we had the big downturn in the economy. We've got oil and gas prices are down. We've got, and so should he be held to that performance standard? I mean, that's an interesting question for the voters, right? If I was his manager, I probably would have wanted to have a discussion when things started changing in the environment, that suddenly maybe that's not going to be doable, because maybe we go to the mission vision of the City of Medicine Hat, which is maybe not exactly in alignment with that particular employee goal anymore. So keeping the integration between the big picture, the organization, the individual, but also in context of everything else that's going on around you. You know, suddenly we thought we would do this, but now what happens? And we see it happens when there's natural disasters and when there's, you know, in the workforce, when somebody is suddenly out for 6 months due to an illness or an injury, and you've got to change the plan. So, talking about key performance indicators, how many people use these and are very familiar with them? Okay, we have 1, 2, okay, and you know, we probably all use them, but we don't necessarily call them KPIs, and there's, so I'm just going to talk a little bit about them. It's a measurable value that demonstrates how effectively a company is achieving its key business objectives. And organizations use them at all different levels to see, are we there yet? So just some of the best practices in this are aligning, making sure that the KPIs, or the key performance indicators, which is just another way of saying the goals that you're setting, align with the strategic goals and objectives, and that they're attainable. So in the example I gave, the goals that were set for this employee were no longer attainable in that marketplace, and he was simply being set up to fail. Ultimately, the employee left, right? Ultimately, the business didn't do well. They needed some different strategies than the way they were going. So they should, the other thing is you need to have data. You need to be able to know whether you achieved your goal or not. So if you ask an organization, if you can say, you know, this was our plan and did we get there? If you don't have some way to measure that, how are you going to know you did? So in an individual, in a counseling session, I'll say to somebody, how terrible are you feeling today? Or how good are you feeling today? On a scale of 0, so let's do this exercise. On a scale of 0 to 10, just write it down on your piece of paper. How good are you feeling today? If 0 is today is a terrible day and 10 is a wonderful day. Now that's a subjective measurement. You are the only one. I can't say, oh, no, you say you're an 8. No, you're really a 6, right? It's what you think. It's what you are saying, how you're doing. And at the end of the day, if I say, the measurement is going to be how I think you're feeling, is that accurate? No, why not?
You can't measure me.
I can't measure you. And I didn't, now because I'm using 2 different measurements, right? I'm saying this is what you said you were at, and then I'm going to tell you how I thought you are. Now, if I want to talk about how I think you are, then I need to measure pre and post. Same thing with performance management. You need to make sure you're using the same management tool, or organizationally pre-post. What are those measures, right? You can't change it halfway through. The other thing is, if you don't set your goal up front as an organization and as an individual, how are you going to know you got there? What are you measuring, right? So it's, anybody ever, you're going to see how many miles, how many kilometers, sorry, that's how old I am, how many kilometers is this trip? But you forget to press the button at the beginning, right? Okay, where are we? How far did we come? You know, you're trying to figure it out. Wouldn't it have been easier just to press that button? And then, you know, we have come 27 kilometers, 272 kilometers, 2,000 kilometers. So having those measurements in place, big picture and individual, is very important. Sometimes we are too busy to do that. So then we're playing catch up. We say, how are we doing? Right? How are we doing? We don't know. We weren't sure where we started. So we want to make sure that they're acute. That is, everybody's on the same page and moving in the same direction. So if you're changing up your key performance indicators, make sure everybody knows that. The next thing is that it's accurate, that the data you're collecting is reliable and accurate, and you're all talking the same language and on the same page. It's easy in a factory. Keep in mind, some of these models emerge from factory work, where we can say, we produced 72 cars today. But when you're in the human service business and you say, we talked to 12 unhappy clients today, and 11 of them are still unhappy. Did we achieve our objectives? How the heck do you measure that in a women's shelter, right? You know, I know I talked and I talked and I talked and they talked and they talked and they talked, and is it success? Interesting. Is the success for an organization that fewer people used your services? No, it may be success is that more people used your services. Does that mean you're causing more domestic violence?
You're helping more people.
You're helping more people. You're getting more people to say, oh my goodness, maybe this isn't a good thing. Maybe I should leave. So in the not-for-profit and in the human service business where you don't have clear indicators, it becomes a lot more difficult to see how are you achieving your goals. You know, in software development, I'm thinking that's a little more black and white, you know.
Stats.
Yeah, yeah. So it's you can really go through that and see. In education, certainly if you're doing the performance management of the person who's cleaning the gymnasium, that should be pretty straightforward. But what about the guidance counselor for the students? How do you measure that performance? So those things, but as an organization, you're probably looking at bigger picture things. You know, how many students are we having? How many are graduating? How many, what do those outcomes look like? And then the next one is actionable. Does the key performance indicator give you insight into the business that you can actually do something about? And is it alive? That is it changing? Is it moving forward? It can't be stagnant. If it's stagnant, it probably won't be effective. So some of the cornerstones are finance, customers, internal business processes, learning, growth, and innovation. So these are cornerstones where you can, you know, these are big objectives and you can set some key performance indicators around each of these things. The thing to remember about key performance indicators is there's no package you can just go and say, here they are, take them off a shelf. They are very individualized to your organization and they need to be developed with the organization. And the more people you can get involved in the process and have them buy in, the better it's going to be, the stronger it's going to be. So how are they transferred from the organization to the individual? And Karen's going to talk more about that, what that looks like. So when we talk in general about engaging the employees to reach the organization's goal, and we all know about the wonderful dating that we have when we're recruiting people. You know, you're telling people that this is the organization, this is what we're doing. Is it the right fit? So you know the competencies, or you should know the competencies that you need for that particular job, that your organization needs to tackle their main objectives. So making sure that in your recruitment that you recruit people who have the competencies that your big plan needs. Second thing is, we talked about this last time, making sure that the onboarding is good so that the employee feels comfortable, has what they need to do the job you want them to do. The third thing is, what else does the person need to know to do their job? They may come, you may have hired for attitude, you may have hired a person who you believe you can train into this new role, but how are they going to get there? And that's that whole business about career development for the organization and for the person. So if we're going to take on a new software program, I better plan that people who aren't able to use that software program, that I have a real good way of teaching them how to use it and making sure that they are comfortable with that. If you're somebody like me who doesn't like to learn, I just got a new phone and it's just about like my old one, but it took me a whole weekend playing with it to kind of get comfortable with it. You have to recognize that there are going to be different levels of career development needed for different people depending on what they bring. And if you suddenly change something with a long-term employee because the organization has changed and they don't buy into it or can't buy into it or don't have the skills they need, what's going to happen to their performance? It's going to go down. So here you had a star player, but now you've changed the rules and they don't know how to deal with it. And again, in my counseling office, I see people who come in and they say, they changed such and such at my job, and now I can't do my job anymore, and I don't know what to do. And then the last one is, what does the future look like? As human beings, we like to know what's happening next. And if we don't know what the organization is going to do, how can you feel comfortable in what you're going to do yourself? So we tell our employees, we have a small business, and we let them know where we're going. We're very upfront about, we're not spending money right now. Now they might be upset with us because they wanted us to, but I'll give you an example. Right now we haven't got as many programs as we sometimes have. So but we want to keep everybody working. We want to have a Christmas party. So we set a limited budget and said, this is our budget, and asked the employees to plan it. And we can't spend the money. They keep coming up with ways that we're gonna have almost a no-cost Christmas party. Like, wow. How good is that? Because they want to have fun, they want to have a party, but they recognize that we're not really flush with money right now, and we all want to keep our jobs. So that's a huge buy-in. And so one of the things we talk to our employees about is, why are we here? And we're all here because we really like working together, and we'd all kind of like to stay working together. That means we have to be successful in reaching our business goals. So, and the next part, which is succession planning, and Peggy's going to talk to that one, because although I might think I'm going to live forever and going to be around doing all of this, I would love to be able to retire someday but still have the organization running. So how do we...
5 more years.
Yeah.
My succession planning.
Exactly. So in doing it this way, what we're talking about is getting engaged employees. And engaged employees want to do well. Believe it or not, most people like to do well. You know, we talk about people who don't have motivation, but most people do want to do well. And if they don't, it's because something has happened to them somewhere in their life. And what we want to do is find a way to turn that light bulb on for them. And getting them part of something bigger than themselves is a really good way to do that. So again, this is nothing new, but an old concept with a lot of value, and we could spend a whole workshop on goal setting, but this is just, smart goal setting is specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And if you do this on the big scale and on the little scale, it is amazing how it works. I've just been doing some strategic planning review with a community coalition, and it's really quite interesting watching 3 years later how many things they did achieve. But this is something you do at the beginning. So your approach should be integrated. That is, we talked about the big picture right through all the levels to the front line. Keep in mind that some of the key performance indicators might look different depending on what part of the organization you're involved in. But they all should align. They should all be facing the same direction. Strategic, it needs to be bigger, it needs to be planned thinking, it needs to be more than just the immediate moment. It needs to be continuous. So you can't just say, okay, from now on, we are going to do good performance management, and then 3 months later, we said, well, what were we going to do about performance management, right? And it happens. I don't know how many times I had been in my life in strategic planning sessions, and we come up with this big document, and then a year later, we come back and say, oh, what did we do? And if it's nothing, how much do I want to be at that table to do it all over again? I don't. And so it needs to be measurable, we talked about that, and it needs to be simple. So as much as it might sound really good to have all kinds of fancy forms and all of that, and some of you have them, but those are the things that can sometimes derail the process. So make it as simple as you possibly can. And the last thing, it needs to be effective. If you are doing something, and I listened to Janet Salopek in her presentation, and I stole this idea from her, but it's one that I think is very universal. If you are doing something just for the sake of doing it, and there's no other reason and there's no good result, what should you do? Should you keep doing it?
It depends though. If someone's told you to do it and they don't listen to what your feedback is, then yeah, you have to.
You might have to, okay. Oh, and how good do you feel about that?
Pretty shitty.
Yeah, exactly. I have to do this. I'm doing this for your own good, but I don't really like it, right? So I'm really annoyed to hear now that there's some rumor that flossing is not actually going to help my teeth. Like, really? Have I been flossing all these years and it's not going to make any difference if it's not effective? Why the heck am I doing it, right? So we all like to do things that have purpose and meaning and that work. So you might, often what will happen is if the system you have that is not working, you may want to think about that. And just as we get sort of to the end of my part of the day, I want you to ask yourself, and we won't have to do that today. This is something to think about as you listen to Karen and Peggy. So, and maybe if we have time at the end for a little discussion, we'll do that. But is your performance management system working for you? If it isn't, or if it is, good, great, keep doing it. If not, what needs to change? Or if it could be better, what needs to change? And how can you develop a plan to change it? And do you have any opportunity to do that in your organization? If in fact you are a cog in a wheel and you just have to keep doing it, I'm going to suggest that you take a step back from the system and find out, is there some way to communicate with the powers that be to let them know that this isn't really working. Any questions? Okay, well, that is my part of the presentation.